I know it makes sense in practice, but doesn't make sense in theory. You see, here's the problem with most marketing advice. It assumes that human beings behave like computers. You give somebody the right information, you show them the right price, you explain benefits clearly enough, you can even demonstrate that the product is objectively better. And logically, they should buy it. Except, that's not how people work. People will drive 20 minutes further to go to a gym that feels more like home. They'll pay more for a product that appears trustworthy. They will ignore the option that is technically better and choose one that makes them feel safer, smarter, or more like the person they want to become, or even less confused. Human beings are squishy. We're inconsistent, we're emotional, we're often irrational. Sometimes, even when we are being rational, we often struggle to articulate the logic that's governing our decisions. Or, as Kahneman would say, we often make the decision and then create the logic afterwards. But that is where alchemy begins. Welcome back to Enoch Marketing. On this channel, we cover all sorts of things. We're going through a series of books right now on how to make your marketing and your business more effective to your audience. This is the beginning of our fourth long-form series on marketing. We have done human behavior, we've done business growth, now we're going to get into a little bit of magic. Our first series covered the fundamentals of marketing. The second one was Ron Roberts-Greene's book, The Laws of Human Nature. And we did that to explore the inside of the marketing system by understanding people, and those people also to include ourselves. The third series covered Byron Sharp's book, How Brands Grow. And that challenged a lot of the conventional wisdom that surrounded loyalty, targeting, differentiation, and brand growth. And now we're moving on to the book Alchemy by Rory Sutherland. And I need to tell you this, I loved this book. Sutherland beautifully explains something that sits underneath many of the problems that we see in marketing. We have developed an over-reliance on logic. And that doesn't mean that logic is bad. It doesn't mean that data is useless. It doesn't even mean that we should ignore costs, results, return on investments. It means that the logic is only one of many ways to understand a problem, especially when that problem is aimed towards impacting humans. And when problems involve human beings, logic by itself often falls short. This book is about our society, particularly business office in the West, so America, Britain, etc. Sutherland's theory in his thesis is really that we are extremely corporate. But when you look at some things that are operating on elite levels, often they've included some form of alchemy in order to make something of greater value that we may not have been able to quantify on a spreadsheet. Because we focus on expenditures. We look at costs, we measure results, we build spreadsheets, models, dashboards, and projections that are designed to tell us which decision will produce the greatest return. No shame, there's a lot of value in that. But you need to understand what you are spending. You need to know whether your advertising is working. You need to know where your leads are coming in or they're not based on the numbers that we produce. And all of that's logic. But there's a little danger there. And there is danger in believing that everything can be captured by numbers. This paradigm creates a very mechanical, computerized way of trying to map and predict human behavior. For example, the spreadsheet tells us that people should pick the lowest price. But human behavior tells us that a low price may make people suspicious of the product. The spreadsheet tells us that faster is always better. But human behavior tells us that certainty can sometimes matter more than speed. It's our logic and numbers that tell us efficiency creates value. But human behavior tells us that something that is inefficient, difficult, expensive, sometimes disgusting, can communicate care, quality, commitment, and trust. And that gap that appears between what is logic and what actually influences people is where Sutherland locates what he calls alchemy. Alchemy is finding the value that conventional logic overlooks. It is understanding that perception is not some meaningless layer sitting on top of reality. Perception is a part of the reality that the customer experiences. As Sutherland would say, I know that it works in practice, but does it work in theory? Over the course of this series, we're going to break this book into 33 sections, along with its introduction and final conclusion. We're going to look at the uses and the abuses of reason. We'll discuss why the most creative and effective ideas may not have an obvious logical justification. We'll get into signaling and how people judge what something means based on cost, effort, risk, or the intention behind it. We will discuss subconscious hacking and all of the ways that people send signals not only to other people, but also to themselves. We'll examine satisficing, which is the idea that people are not always searching for the absolute best option. We'll discuss psychophysics and the relationship between objective reality and our subjective experience with it. We will bring back those ideas together and talk about what it actually means to think like an alchemist. In Series 1, we covered basics. Series 2, we studied people and history. Series 3, we studied science. And now, we're getting into magic. And sometimes, an idea works because it feels right. Sometimes people choose a gym because of something that they cannot explain. And those things are difficult to place inside of a spreadsheet or an algorithm because they are designed to measure. Businesses often treat them, the unmeasurable things, as unimportant. But just because something is difficult to measure does not mean it's unimportant. That emotional and psychological value is not fake. It's not decoration. It's not what the person is buying. And that is the point I want to carry through this series. That we are not abandoning logic. We're just recognizing its limits. The best marketing is not created by choosing between data or creativity, or choosing between logic and emotion, or even science and intuition. It comes from understanding what each one can and cannot tell us. Numbers show us what happened, for sure. They can show us where people clicked, how much you spent, and how many memberships you sold. They may not explain why someone trusted you, or why your message felt relevant, or why one gym became meaningful while another one remained untouchable or interchangeable. To understand that, we need to understand people as they actually are. Squishy, emotional, social, inconsistent, often irrational, sometimes rational, and frequently unable to express the ideas that are governing their decisions. This is going to be fun. This is the territory that we're entering, and that is alchemy. If that sounds valuable to you, follow this channel, like this video, so that you can walk through the entire series with us. If you want to discuss how these ideas are applying to your positioning, advertising, growth, your CrossFit gym, or anything, you want to just chat about it. We will look at what your numbers are telling you and what they may or may not be missing. And then we will see you all in the next episode.